Gaddafi forces have aircraft, the opposition fighters don't. It's their one really big disadvantage.
I'm Shabra Tansi in Washington with reaction from the Americas.
You are either representing the legitimate representative of the Libyan people, which is the council, or you still swear an allegiance to a terrorist organization that disguises itself as a government.
One of Colonel Gaddafi's former ministers tells Al Jazeera there can be no middle ground. Plus, a senior US senator says the US and its allies should make preparations for a no-fly zone over Libya.
Also on the program, it's not over in Egypt. Protesters come up against armed men in the capital. And France's far-right leader takes pole position. Could Marine Le Pen really become the country's next president? The battle for Libya is intensifying. There are clashes between the army and rebel forces in areas down through the country's coastline. In the past couple of hours, Colonel Gaddafi made a fleeting appearance in Tripoli's main square, showing his supporters he's still there and still fighting. And here's how the battle for Libya is going. Starting in the east, we've got reports of clashes between pro- and anti-Gaddafi forces in Tobruk. In Benghazi, the hub of the uprising, the rebels say they're in control. And there's fighting in the oil-producing town of Ras Lanuf, as well as Bin Jawad. Now, in Misrata, opposition forces say they've repelled government forces. Same story in AlJazeera, which is now being called liberated from Gaddafi's forces. Completely different story in the capital, Tripoli, where there have been celebrations after the government claimed it has crushed the rebellion. Well, let's take a closer look at one of the battlegrounds in Ras Lanuf. Jackie Rowland is there and has been talking to the rebels.
The rebels are edging closer and closer to the Gaddafi heartlands. The territory they call Free Libya now extends almost as far west as Bin Jawad. That's just 200 kilometers from Gaddafi's hometown of Sirte.
We advanced to Bin Jawad, and we discovered that Gaddafi troops had recruited teenagers and made them stand on the rooftops to shoot at us. After that, we decided to withdraw from Bin Jawad to work out a new strategy to return and capture the town.
The rebels are chaotic and living on their nerves. Their mood swings from panic to euphoria. But their great strength lies in the conviction that they are liberating their country. The skies are clear again after a sandstorm that lasted several days. And good visibility means enemy aircraft.
The rebels are vulnerable from the sky. The pro-Gaddafi forces have aircraft, the opposition fighters don't. It's their one really big disadvantage.
Capturing territory and capturing enemy soldiers too. The rebels take us to see a man they've been holding prisoner since Friday. He tells me he's a conscript in the Libyan army.
The army asked me what my specialty was. They posted me as a sentry and said, if you leave, we will shoot you.
Gaddafi's army may outgun the rebels, but the rebels outnumber the army. New volunteers are joining all the time and their morale is high. Just as well, since the heaviest fighting may still lie ahead. Jackie Rowland, Al Jazeera, Ras Lanuf in eastern Libya.
Well, as we've been telling you, opposition fighters say they've repelled an attack by government forces in the town of Misrata. Gaddafi's forces attacked with tanks and artillery, and reports say that at least 18 people there were killed in the fighting. Misrata is the largest opposition-held town outside the eastern parts of the country. Muhammad Ali is a member of the Civil Committee for Misrata Affairs. Imran Garda asked him how the rebels were going to defend themselves against the Libyan army.
Our armory is not a lot. What we rely on is willpower and the belief that we want to liberate our country, and the amount of dislike and hate towards the system and the dictator. I heard one of your earlier reports that Gaddafi might outgun us, but he will not outnumber us, and and his forces do not have the determination that we have.
Do you want outside help?
Yes, specific help. A no-fly zone is long overdue, and selective surgical strikes, I think, are called for.
So that's Misrata. Let's take a broader look at the battle for Libya. These are the cities the anti-Gaddafi forces say are under their control. They are concentrated in the east. The second largest city in Libya, Benghazi, is in their stronghold. Gaddafi retains control of the capital, Tripoli. It's on security lockdown after clashes there erupted a week ago. Clashes continue in Tobruk. That's a city that was held by the rebels a few days ago. As was Al-Zawiya, just outside of the capital, and Breka too, so close to the center of the anti-Gaddafi stronghold in Benghazi. Now, that's also where several British Special Forces soldiers were released after the capture by opposition forces in eastern Libya. Hoda Abdelhamid reports.
It's very difficult for anyone here to believe that these 8 British nationals were actually on a diplomatic mission. For the simple reason that they landed in the middle of the night by helicopter in a little town south of Benghazi. They had with them a whole lot of equipment, according to our sources, computers, maps, weapons and explosives. They were immediately intercepted by rebels and the residents of that area and handed over to authorities in Benghazi. Now, the National Council here in Benghazi says it had no idea that these 8 British nationals were on Libyan soil until they were handed over. They said that no one had told them about a diplomatic mission coming into the country.
The way they came in was inappropriate. They came into the country in the wrong way. We arrested them as soon as they touched the Libyan soil. For someone to just come in like that through the air without any permission or prior agreement is out of order. I mean, we have a state and we have a sovereignty. We have sovereignty over our borders, land, air and sea. Anybody who wants to come in must obtain a permission. I mean, how can this be a delegation of diplomats and come in this manner? We completely reject this.
They do raise the question that if they were really a diplomatic mission, why didn't they come through the normal route, and that will be through the Egyptian border with Libya. The National Council did say that at this stage it did not want to have any kind of international diplomatic row, so it handed them over to British authorities as quick as it could.
Well, that British team is now heading to nearby Malta. The island's being used for humanitarian purposes, but the country's former prime minister is worried that it may be used for military strikes on Gaddafi. He's told AlJazeera he doesn't believe NATO ships off the coast are just there for humanitarian reasons. James Bass has this report.
These aircraft are NATO's eyes and ears. The AWACS is packed with the most sophisticated cameras, surveillance and monitoring equipment. NATO maintains these planes are working as part of a counter-terrorism mission which has been in place since 9/11. But that mandate is a pretty broad one, checking on suspicious aircraft and ships. And in recent days, they've been tracked constantly in the skies near Libya. They've been showing particular